ever feel like, I don't know, maybe your dreams were more real than real life?
Or like those times you wake up and you can't move and you're sure there's something in the room with you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, what is that?
Well, today's deep dive might just hold some answers, or at least some seriously mind-bending possibilities. We're tackling Michael Raduga's book, The Phase.
The phase. Okay, at first glance, it sounds like we're talking lucid dreaming here, right?
You might think so, but Raduga's take on this is something else entirely.
Oh, really? How so?
He goes way beyond just being aware in your dreams. We're talking about a state of consciousness where you could potentially unlock healing powers.
Healing powers. Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah, and that's not all. Raduga claims the phase can supercharge your creativity, even let you bend reality itself. Big claims.
Big claims indeed. So, who is this Michael Raduga? Is he some kind of mystic guru?
Well, that's the interesting part. Raduga actually started as a total skeptic, which honestly makes his whole story even more compelling.
Okay, now I need to hear this.
Yeah.
Skeptic turned. Phase expert. How does that happen?
Picture this. Siberian teenager totally obsessed with alien abduction stories.
I can actually picture that, yeah.
That was Raduga. He even convinced himself he'd had an alien encounter.
Oh, no way. He wasn't just reading about it, he thought it happened to him.
He did, but, and this is key, instead of just rolling with it, he decided to analyze the experience, like really pick it apart scientifically.
Interesting. So what happened? Did he find proof of aliens?
Nope, quite the opposite. He debunked his own alien abduction story. Through meticulous self-analysis, he realized it wasn't aliens at all, it was something else entirely.
Something else. So is that when he stumbled upon this phase idea?
Exactly. That experience, which he thought was paranormal, turned out to be, in his view, a taste of the phase. And Raduga believes this isn't just some random rare thing. He thinks we all experience it, whether we realize it or not.
Hold on. So those weird sleep paralysis moments, vivid dreams, even just that hazy feeling as you drift off.
Raduga would say, yeah, those could all be glimpses into the phase.
Wow, okay. But if this phase isn't just lucid dreaming, what is it exactly?
Well, imagine this. A heightened state of awareness, right on the edge of sleep, where you're fully conscious, but the lines between your mind and the physical world, they get blurry.
Blurry, how so?
Your senses are amplified, you might feel things, see things, even interact with your environment in ways that seem to defy the laws of physics.
Okay, that does sound pretty different from just knowing you're dreaming. This is more like
That's
stepping into an entirely different reality.
That's a good way to put it. And Raduga's early attempts to share all this, like his first book, didn't exactly take off. People thought he was nuts.
Well, yeah, I could see how that would be a tough sell.
But then everything changed when he appeared on this really popular Russian TV program.
Ooh, his big break. So he went from unknown author to, like, the phase guru overnight. This is what I'm wondering. How do you go from, what was it, bouncing at nightclubs in Siberia
He was.
to being interviewed on national television about something as, I don't know, out there as the phase?
His journey is definitely not your typical self-help guru story. We're talking about a guy who went from devouring every book on consciousness, sleep, paranormal, you name it.
Sounds like he's doing his research.
Big time. But he didn't stop there. Raduga went on to actually conduct experiments, develop techniques for inducing this phase state.
So this wasn't just theory for him. He was trying to make it practical.
Absolutely. And that's what led to his big claim that anyone can learn to enter the phase. He even started leading these intensive 3-day seminars.
Okay, hold on. Anyone. That's a pretty bold statement. So we're going to dive into these techniques, right? Because I'm sure our listeners are just as curious as I am. What makes them so unique? What makes them effective?
One of the core principles is what Raduga calls indirect techniques, which is fascinating, especially for people who might already be into lucid dreaming.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Indirect techniques. So what, you just wait for the phase to find you?
Not exactly. See, a lot of lucid dreaming techniques are about directly trying to influence your dreams, right? Which, let's be honest, can be really difficult, really hit or miss.
Yeah, for every time I've had a lucid dream, I've probably had 100, where I just had zero control.
Right. So Raduga, he throws that out the window. Instead of forcing it, he says, pay attention to what's already happening naturally as you fall asleep or wake up. Those strange sensations, those fleeting images.
Okay, so like that hazy feeling, or sometimes I get this weird falling sensation.
Exactly, those hypnagogic experiences. Raduga would say that's your entry point to the phase.
So instead of fighting it, you kind of go with it.
You got it. And that's where those indirect techniques come in. It's about learning to use those subtle bodily experiences, those fleeting images, as a springboard into the phase.
So you're basically hacking into your own sleep cycle, but in a way that works with your natural physiology, not against it. I like it.
That's Raduga in a nutshell. He's all about working with your body's natural processes to unlock these extraordinary states of consciousness.
Okay, I'm hooked. So how do we actually do it? Give me some specifics. What are these techniques? How do you go from feeling a little weird as you're falling asleep to actually entering the phase?
Okay, so picture this. You're lying in bed, you wake up in the middle of the night, but you don't move a muscle. You keep your eyes closed.
Okay, kind of creepy, but I'm with you.
And instead of trying to fully wake up, you just focus on those sensations, those weird, hazy feelings right on the edge of sleep and wakefulness.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes it's like this weird pressure on my chest or, like I said, that falling feeling.
Exactly. That's what Raduga calls the hypnagogic state. That's your entry point to the phase. And you might start to notice even weirder stuff, like you were saying, vibrations, maybe even like images flashing before your mind's eye.
It's true. Sometimes it feels like my mind is trying to pull me back into a dream, even though I know I'm awake.
Right. And this is where those indirect techniques I mentioned come in. Instead of fighting those sensations, you learn to work with them to gently guide yourself into the phase.
Okay, but how? Like, how do you actually guide yourself? I need specifics here.
One technique Raduga describes is called phantom wiggling. Basically, you imagine you're trying to move your fingers or toes.
Okay, I do that sometimes when I'm falling asleep. Just kind of a nervous habit.
But here's the thing, in the phase, those phantom movements, they can become real. So you're imagining wiggling your fingers and suddenly you actually feel it. And that sensation, that's your cue that you're starting to separate from your physical body.
Whoa, that's wild. So you're basically tricking your mind into entering this other realm.
In a way, yeah. But it's not really about tricking your mind. It's more like you're tapping into these hidden abilities that we all have.
Okay, so you're telling me we can all do this? There's no, like, special predisposition or anything?
That's what Raduga claims. He says it's like learning to ride a bike. It might feel awkward at first, but with practice, anyone can do it.
Okay, I'm definitely going to need to try this.
Yeah.
But let's say you've mastered the technique. You're in the phase. What can you actually do with it?
That's where things get really interesting. Raduga claims you can use the phase for everything from healing to boosting your creativity to even exploring the nature of reality itself.
Okay, that's a pretty wide range.
Yep.
Let's start with the healing aspect. What does he mean you can heal yourself in the phase?
So Raduga believes that in the phase, you have direct access to your subconscious mind.
Okay, that makes sense. Like in dreams, how emotions can feel super intense.
Right. But it goes even deeper than that. Raduga claims you can actually use the phase to diagnose and even heal physical ailments.
Wait, really? Like how?
He gives this one example where he was in the phase and he felt this blockage in his intestines. And when he woke up, he went to the doctor, and it turned out he had a minor intestinal issue.
No way.
Huh.
So you're saying you can actually feel your physical body from the inside out in the phase?
That's what he claims. He even talks about people using the phase to shrink tumors, overcome phobias, all sorts of things.
That's incredible. But I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical. Is there any scientific evidence to back this up?
That's the thing. There's not a ton of scientific research on the phase yet. A lot of it is based on anecdotal evidence, people sharing their personal experiences.
Okay, so it's more like a frontier of consciousness exploration than proven medical treatment.
Exactly. But even if it's just the placebo effect at work, there's still something powerful about the idea that our minds can have such a profound impact on our bodies.
I'm with you on that. But what about the creativity aspect? How can the phase help you be more creative? So it's like tapping into this unlimited well of inspiration, right? But instead of just waiting for the muse to strike, you're actively seeking it out in the phase.
Exactly. And because the phase is so fluid, so malleable, you're not bound by the same limitations as in waking life.
So you could like build a whole building in your mind, walk through it, see how the light hits.
Raduga gives examples like that, architects using the phase to visualize their designs, musicians composing entire symphonies.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. But you mentioned something earlier about exploring the nature of reality itself. That's a pretty heady concept. What's Raduga's take on that?
Yeah, so this is where things get really out there. He talks about encountering entities in the phase, like beings of pure energy.
Entities. Okay, now this is where I start to get a little skeptical.
And I get it, believe me. There were parts of this book where I was like, come on, really? But even if you take those more extreme examples with a grain of salt,
Which is probably wise.
definitely. But even then, Raduga's core message is pretty profound. He's basically saying that our understanding of reality, what we consider real, it's incredibly limited.
Okay, so the phase, even if you don't buy into all the, I don't know, the woo-woo stuff, it still makes you question what's possible.
Exactly. It pushes those boundaries. And even more than that, Raduga believes the phase can be this tool for profound personal growth.
How so?
Well, he talks about using the phase to face your fears, work through trauma, even connect with your deeper self on this really deep level.
So it's not just about having these wild experiences, it's about using them to learn and grow as a person.
That's what Raduga argues. He sees the phase as this untapped potential within all of us, this ability to access different states of consciousness, explore the nature of reality, and ultimately understand ourselves in a much deeper way.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
But let's be real, a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I even start?
Well, that's the beauty of Raduca's work. He doesn't just talk about the phase in these vague, abstract terms. He gives you very specific techniques, very detailed instructions for how to actually experience it for yourself.
So it's not just theory, it's a practical guidebook.
Exactly. He lays out the steps, the potential pitfalls, even how to deal with common challenges, like maintaining awareness once you're in the phase.
Well, it's not like you just snap your fingers and you're there.
Yeah.
It takes effort, practice, dedication.
Like anything worthwhile, yeah. But Raduga claims that with consistent practice, anyone can learn to induce the phase.
Wow, okay. I have to say, I'm both intrigued and a little intimidated. It's like he's presenting this whole other reality that's just waiting to be explored, but it's up to us to take that first step.
That's a great way to put it. It's like he's handing you a map to a hidden world and saying, go explore.
And who knows what you might find. Maybe you'll encounter those beings of pure energy. Maybe you'll compose a symphony. Maybe you'll just gain a deeper understanding of yourself.
Or maybe, just maybe, you'll discover something that completely changes your understanding of what's possible.
Well, that's a pretty compelling invitation to explore. If you're feeling adventurous, if you're curious about the hidden depths of consciousness, I highly recommend checking out Raduga's book, The Phase. You might just surprise yourself with what you discover.
Just remember to keep an open mind, a healthy dose of skepticism, and most importantly, a sense of wonder.
This is The Deep Dive, signing off.